This is Amud Yomi Gemara and Shabbos Daf. Mem Vav Amud Aleph. We're holding on the bottom of Mem Hey Amud Beis, and we just finished off differentiating between a Menayir Shenitla B'Yadei Achas and a Menayir Shenitla B'Shnei Yadav. That according to Rav Shimon, it's going to be Muksa, and said the Gemara. The reason is that Rabbi Rav Yosef Hayol V'Adam Kavei Loi Makayim, because someone designates a place for it. So continues the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom. Amrle Abaye le Rav Yosef. Says Abaye to Rav Yosef, Harakilos Chasanim. What about the bed, the canopy of Chasanim, a bridal bed, a bed with 2 posts and a tipi on the top, which as well, Dadam Kavele Makayim, a person designates a place from it, and yet what's its status on Shabbos? As we move over to Mem Vav Amud Aleph, is Mutter Linetaise Mutter Parka Shabbos. You're allowed to open it up and you're allowed to take it down. So we see that even something that has a Yichod Makayim, has a designated place, is not Muksa. Elam Rabbaye. So says Abaye, you know why the candelabras were Muksa? Michel Choliois. The reason is a candle made out of pieces, and therefore we're afraid that if it falls, it might fall apart. Therefore, their Rabbanan said you can't move it because it's fragile. It might break, and you might come to fix it. Says my time the Shari. So how can Rish Lakish say that you're allowed to move these items? What about the fact that it might fall and come apart? Answers Gemara, my chuliyos kein chuliyos. Similar. It has grooves that it clicks together, and therefore it's a din d'Rabbanan that you're not allowed to move it. But this is, and what? Hilkach says the Gemara, chuliyos being tanas l'tal a large candelabra that has chitki, has grooves, can it be moved? Just like a large one of chulios. Keep ligi. So what is the machlaik? As if everyone agrees it's chulios, everyone agrees if it falls, it can come apart. What's the machlaik? Is Rav Yechon Rish Lakish Bekitano dismechitki. Mar Savar Gazvin Rav Yechon holds there was a gezeira on the Kitana onto the Gedoyla. Mar Savar Lo Gazvino. So it comes out that the machlaik is Rav Yechon Rish Lakish is really a sidebar machlaik as to how far the Gezerah is going to go. Says the Gemara, Mi Amar Rav Yechon Hachi. Did Rav Yechon say this, going back to yesterday's Amud, which Rav Yechon said over that the din of Rav Yehuda. And again, it sounds like Rav Yechon is going within the opinion of Rav Yehuda, which is De'is Bei Muksa. Asks the Gemara of Amar Rav Yechon taught Halacha Mistam Mishnah. Halacha is like a Stam Mishnah. Utanana, we learned in the Mishnah as follows. Muchni Shelah, a case that we had a few days ago and we bring back onto the table. Muchni, the wheel of a wagon. Bizman she nishmetes, when it comes off, in chibrula, is not considered attached. Ve'in imdadasima, is a measure with it. Ve'in matal sima b'lameis. Ve'in garnas abishavzan sheishla ma'is, you can't move it when there's money on it. Ha'in allow ma'is, what's the obvious implication? And again, this is a wheel, bizman shehi nishmetes, very important, a removable wheel. Of course, a non-removable wheel is part and parcels intrinsically attached as one and the same with the wagon. But a removable wheel, teaches the Gemara, has a different status. A removable wheel is going to be a separate entity entirely, and therefore the Brisa concluded you're not allowed to move it if it had money on it. The obvious implication is what? If there's no money on it, then what? Sharia. You're less allowed to move it on Shabbos. Even though seemingly in this case the money is on this muchni, on this wheel, on Bein HaShmashes, and you're going to be allowed to move it. So who is this going to go like? Clearly, like Rav Shimon, who holds that we do not go by Bein HaShmashes, even that is Muksa Bein HaShmashes, will not be Muksa for the entirety of Shabbos. The problem is, who said over this brisa, Rav Yochanan, halacha kistam Mishnah. So Rav Yochanan says halacha kistam Mishnah. The Stam Mishnah is clearly like Rav Shimon. So how could yesterday Rav Yochanan had said over on Memei Amid Beis halacha Rav Yehuda? Amar Rav Zira explains the Gemara. Say that the case is talking about there's not money there. Why? Shalishvar Dvar of Rav Yochanan, not to contradict and break the words of Rav Yochanan, which in reality is saying that the Gemara understands that it might not be the greatest way of explaining this brisa, but we rather explain the brisa in a deichadik way, so it's not a kasha on Rav Yochanan. Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Says Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Pa'amachas, smack in the middle of the Amar, the first one line is Achas. Pa'amachas olach Rabbi Lidiyos Pera, that's an name of a place. V'hay Rabbi Menaira Rav Shimon ben Ner, and he paskin by Menaira, like Rav Shimon, it's not Muksa. Ibayi Leho, so the shaila is, what were the particulars in that case? So in classical Gemara sense, the Gemara tries to figure it out. Ibayi Leho, Hay Rabbi Menaira Rav Shimon ben Ner lehetira, you let him move it. Or maybe what did he mean? Two different cases, because as we just explained, when it comes to the menorah, there was a whole explanation that the menorah could be called al choliyos. We could be talking about a menorah that can fall apart, a separate gezerah. So we paskening like that case, and separately like Rav Shimon ben Ner, or is it all one and the same? Says the Gemara, Teku. Mirtz Hashem Eliyahu Navi will shed some light on that story. Continues the Gemara, Rav Malka Ikla Lebei Rav Simlai. Rav Malka went to visit the house of Rav Simlai, V'tiltal Shraga. When he was there, he moved a candle. Ve'ikbid Rav Simlai. And Rav Simlai was upset. So what do we see? We see that Rav Malka went with Rav Shimon. Rav Simlai went with Rav Yehuda. Rav Yosi Galila, Egla Lasad, Rav Yosi Rav Chanina, Tiltal Shragan, he moved the candle, Rav Yosi Rav Chanina. We see the same thing in Machlekes Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon. Says the Gemara, Rav Avua, Kikla Lasad, Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Nacham Olav Metaltal Shraga, Ki Ikla Rav Asad, Rav Yechla Metaltal Shraga. Says the Gemara, Rav Avua, what are you doing? Manashach. Rav Yehuda Levi, like Rav Yehuda, let him move the nair. Levik Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon Zirlei, Levik Rav Shimon. Why did you Rav Avua? When you were by Rav Shimon Levi, you moved it. When you were by Rav Yechon, you didn't move it. Make up your mind. So explains the Gemara on the last narrow line. Really, Lailam, Rav Shimon Zirlei. Rav Avua held like Rav Shimon, and therefore he was able to move the lamp like he did by Rav Shimon Levi. Rav Yochanan. When he was in Rav Yechanan's locale, and we know that Asra Demar, we paskin like him in the place of Rav Yechanan, in deference to Rav Yechanan, he did not want to move the candle. Now the obvious kasha is maybe the opposite. Maybe he held like Rav Yehuda that you're, maybe he held like Rav Yehuda that you're not allowed to move the lamp. And in Asr de Rishum Levi, he moved it. The answer is you could be machmir, like the other shita. If you hold something is mutter, you could be machmir. But if you hold something's usr, you can't go and be makel just because you're in that person's town. An obvious cheshbon. Says the Gemara, and with this we conclude, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, the first wide line. Says Rabbi Yehuda, Shraga de Mishcha Shar L'Taltaluye. An oil lamp you can move the neft, but a lamp made out of neft also l'taltla. Rabbi Yosef Tervayo the nefter anami shal taltluya is also allowed to be moved. Rav Avia Klala Bei Rav went to the house of Rav. Havim Isin Beikari Betina, his shoes were all muddy. Itva Aporia Kami de Rava. He put them on the bed in front of Rava. Ikbin Rava Bailat Rava was upset and he wanted to start asking questions to Rav Avia. Amar le, my time the Rabbi Yosef Tervayo Shag the nefter mi shar l'taltluye. So he asked Rav Avia, Rav Avia, excuse me. Why did Rabbi Yosef say that a shaga deneft you let him move? Amar le, Rav Avia said, because you could use it to cover over another item. Elamiata, so said Rav, if that's true, so everything should be able to be moved, all the racks in the whole city, because theoretically it could be used to cover over a vessel. No, the lamp is a Tairaz Kli, Hani Leka Tereski, which is really a very important rule in the world of Muksa, that once something is a fashion, the man-made item, it's much easier to allow it to be moved on Shabbos. When something is not, when something is inherently a rack, it is more difficult. Says the Gemara, Milai Tanya Ravavia brings a raya to this. Do we not learn in the braces we turn over to? Menvavim Ebeis Ashiva and Azama Tabayis rings, bracelets and other types of rings. They're in Bechol Kelim and Italim Bachatzer. Ramar Ula My Tam, Havi Gataris Klialel, Hanami Gataris Klialel, and Amram Nachbar Yitzchak. Berech Rachmanot. Look, see for Rav Ravavia Baruch Hashem. That Rav did not embarrass Rav was able to answer the kashas, explaining the reason why you'll be allowed to move the items, because there's a Torah that's clear the difference between that and a rock. And we'll pick it up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.